Hi, good evening, everybody, or wherever you are at, because I guess in some parts of the world, depending on where you're watching this, this could be good morning or good afternoon. But thank you for joining us. Today I have with us again Jen Calderon, who is going to be sharing with us about ePortfolios. Jen, if you just want to quickly introduce yourself again, in case there's anybody that hasn't seen your face before.
Hello, I'm Jen Calderon. I am an assistant principal with Hesperia Unified School District. I was a biology teacher for 10 years, so I'm going to kind of showcase a little bit of what I did the last year that I was in the classroom.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So Jen, if you want to share your screen with me, I will project that up in just a moment. So if you are familiar, we have started doing some blogs through iHeartEDU. Webinars through iHeartEDU. So we're going to have more of these coming up over the next month or so. I'll definitely have a blog post out on that. So I will link to my blog subscription in here in just a moment. That way, if you do want to subscribe and get a link to all of the upcoming webinars, I'm going to post some for the next couple of weeks, and then there will be some for May as well. So keep an eye out for that. As I've said before, if you have any questions as we're going through this, please drop that into the live chat on YouTube or the comments section on Facebook, and I will try to answer those as quickly as possible. So I am going to go away now so Jen can do what she does. And here we go.
You're funny. All right, everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. You do have access to my slides. They're kind of organized and all over the place, but I'm going to go ahead and navigate you as best I can. I don't want to say that this is not going to produce something that you can make and take. It can, but you really have to ask yourself a couple questions before we even get started. So the whole webinar that I'm talking about is using ePortfolios in the classroom. Like I said, I was a high school biology teacher for 10 years, and when we first rolled out one-to-one within our district, my students were using iPads and the old platform for Google Sites, and they had to maneuver, and they were the best little experiments, if you want to call them that, that I had, because I was able to show them the back end, and the new and improved Google Sites is super user-friendly. I know that there's a couple elementary school teachers personally that I know that are using them for ePortfolios. So I'll go ahead and just get started. So I did introduce myself. I'm an assistant principal now. I am a Google certified trainer, so I do have some knowledge of Google products. Not a whole lot, but I know some, and I'm willing to share with whomever I can. So when you're moving into this platform of ePortfolios, I really want you to focus in on the why. Why are you wanting to go from maybe what you're doing now, which could be an interactive notebook, just having your kids use maybe Google Classroom to collect assignments, but not really having a showcase for them. Really asking yourself, what is the reason behind it? What do you want to showcase? What do you want your ePortfolios to look like? And then what do you want your students to learn? So I was a huge proponent of, obviously I taught biology, but I wasn't just teaching the standards. I wanted my students to be literate in technology. I wanted them to have exposure to docs, to sheets, to making sure they knew how to graph with sheets, being able to utilize the drive, taking images and being able to upload them into their portfolios. So really ask yourself, what do you want your students to learn in the process? Because that is going to manifest what they produce. And then specifically asking yourself, what are the benefits to this? I was a teacher that taught with interactive notebooks, and I would tote around 160 of them if I wasn't able to grade them throughout the week, and I would take those home. And to me, I could not do that after, year 8. I was like, okay, we got to figure out a different way to do this. So I kind of just took into account using Google Classroom and really minimizing the paper footprint, but then it manifested itself into electronic portfolios. So that's kind of what I wanted you to maybe start off thinking, having those questions maybe in the forefront of your mind before we go ahead and move into the actual product. So the next thing that you probably want to ask yourself is, how are you going to collect the portfolios? Obviously, you won't have to have them in paper format. You're going to create some form of digital components. And all I did was I made a quick Google form. So it just was simple 3 questions. What's your last name? What's your first name? And then you're going to give me the URL to that website. And I went ahead, I walked my students through this whole process. So it was really like a I do, you do, and then if we need to do it together, we're going to kind of work it out that way. So they'll be able to produce this. And then to the right, I did blur out their names for privacy, but it just had their information, and that was my go-to form to quickly access their portfolios when I was going and spot checking or going through and grading them. So that's one component of it, and I will show you a couple of examples from my students that were about 3-4 years ago. As you move into thinking about, what you want your portfolio to be, that first question I asked, what are you showcasing? So will it only be digital? Will you include paper assignments with links? Are you going to be incorporating videos? Really, what do you want your students to produce, and what are the programs and techniques behind the instruction that you want them to know? So on this image or this slide, which is slide 5, you actually have links to what I requested my students to have in there, and the ridiculous amount of points that I assigned for this, which realistically, I could have made it worth 5,000 points and it still would have gotten done. But I'll go ahead and walk you through tutorial or through examples, and then I'm going to walk you through on how to navigate sites. So if you've never built a site before, I will go into that. And then you do have step-by-step directions and kind of explanations for every aspect of sites as well. So that's all in my slide deck. So let me go ahead and show you a couple of examples first. I'll go to this first one. So like I said, I walked the students through this process. We kind of did a tutorial first, and then they really learned to adapt what they did with inside of their ePortfolio. So I used a variety of different Google Apps for Education. Like I said, we did docs, we did slides, we did sheets. They did videos on YouTube. They did videos on Adobe Spark and embedded codes. So I tried to use, like I said, a lot of different platforms and give my students the digital tools they needed necessary in order to adapt to high school, in the future and eventually in college. So here was the warm-up questions that they would fill out. We did notes digitally. The students had questions that they would answer. Again, more warm-ups. I still was a teacher that used paper. I know I had to. So my students actually took pictures and images, and this more served as a reference point for them. As we were working on projects and things like that, it would allow them to reference back, maybe for like checks for understanding that I would give them, or to use, like I said, in the projects. So if you continue to follow along with me, again, there were more notes, more parts of instruction that they did and practicing. And then, like I said, they actually did YouTube videos, and they would embed the code in there, and they'd walk you through the whole process of protein synthesis. So that was actually super fun and very refreshing to see my students produce as 9th grade students. So that is one ePortfolio. Here's the second one. So again, teaching them how to use docs. This one was really fun. My students, we did a lab, and we kind of did an infographic as the first slide. And when I was looking at these, I taught them how to link specific information to certain slides. So my students were able to produce graphs using Google Sheets. So if I were to click on this sheet or the picture of the graph, it would take me directly to that graph and that slide. And then I would be able to they were supposed to provide a home page for me to go back to, but then it would take me back to the infographic. So this was actually really cool because it just showed that they were able to use all the different dynamics of Google Slides. So again, more documents and more notes and work. I was a huge proponent of sketch notes as well. So my students would take sketch notes listening to either podcasts or video tutorials of me teaching them, kind of a flipped classroom mentality. So they would then show notes that they took along with just understanding summaries, that kind of thing as well. And then, like I said, the students really used Adobe Spark Video in order to show what they knew, and just another way for them to showcase their learning in the whole entire process. So I hope that kind of gives you an overview as to kind of what my students used it for. I will say this. I was not a stickler about headings and titles and things like that. Looking back as I'm creating new things and different things like that, I would definitely teach the kids how to organize and structure it. And then that's kind of what I'm going to take you into as I go forward. So hopefully that gives you just a quick idea as to the overview of why ePortfolios and kind of ways to structure it. But what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to walk you through the whole Google Site protocol, where to access stuff, how to create them, just kind of taking you step by step. So if there are questions, I know Megan's looking at the back end of this. I'm not necessarily looking at my screen. So if you shout out questions, I know if I don't answer them as I'm presenting, we'll go ahead and get questions towards the end. So what you want to do, first of all, is you can open up a new tab, and there's several ways that you can go ahead and get to Google Sites. So you can go to your waffle, and you can go to the drive, or you can go specifically to sites and you can create a new one, or you can simply type sites.new, and that'll take you to a blank Google site. So there's multiple ways that you can get there. I am already on one, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of go from here. So I think dependent upon your presenter and kind of who's guiding you through this process, the first thing I would always tell my kids or my students, and even people who are creating sites, is to name your site first of all. And that's located right here by the icon of sites. So for my sake, I'm going to do demo site. And that will be the title of my name, or of my Google site. So notice that is the site document name. But as I hover over here, this is going to be the name of my URL too, or the name of my site. So I'll move through this as slowly as I can. Like I said, please feel free to ask questions. So that's the first thing that I would encourage my students to do. I'll kind of go through the overview of what everything is before we dive into actually structuring what a portfolio would essentially look like. So you have an undo button, you have a redo button. So as simple as, oh, I made a mistake, or I made a mistake and I need to redo what I just did. You have those at your fingertips. This little camera cell phone icon is to preview. So if you click that at any point, it will take you to the live replica or live view of what your site would look like. So that way it can kind of give you a picture of, okay, this is what the viewers would see. And then in order to get out of that preview screen, there is an X on the screen, so you'll just click that. So that is the preview icon. The link, this site is not published yet, therefore that is unavailable, and I can show you what that would look like when we get to that point. The little head icon with a plus sign, that is to be able to share your site with other collaborators. So if you are working on a site that requires multiple people, that's a good feature to have. So maybe your portfolios, you want them to be like a project format and you want kids to work together on it. That is something that is available, so you have that feature. This is your settings button. So we'll kind of go into that a little bit later, but that is where your settings are. The three dots will give you some version history as to what past things you've done. You can duplicate the site if it's amazing and you maybe want to create a copy for your kids to follow, or have like a model, you can go ahead and do that. And then you can also report a problem or take a tour of the whole site. This is the publish button, and I'll explain that a little bit later. So right now, you are on the tab that says insert, and then these are all the things you can insert. I will go through each of them for you, but that is how you insert items into your site. Pages, this is where you will create your page or subpages, as well as the navigation to different sites or different pages, and maybe even different websites. And then the third one, which is the fun part, is setting your theme. Right now, so before, you could, in the old sites, which I'm super thankful for new sites. If you are familiar with the old sites, this is a lot better, I promise. So there's not really a lot of different themes that you can install or insert into the site right now, but it's growing. And I know Google, and I know they'll continue to produce some upgrades and wonderful things that we can utilize in the future. But if you are like, I need to have this graphic and this color and all this kind of stuff, you won't get that necessarily on this format, but I promise it will do the job. So right now we are on the simple theme. So if you click through them, Aristotle, there's diplomat, vision, level. I personally like impression, but yeah, we'll just do this one. So I'm going to change it to, instead of it being this red pink color, you also have a yellow. If you see this little paint can right here, if you do have a specific color that you'd like to use, or you can go ahead and find one, you have the ability to change that as well. So that's a cool feature that was upgraded. And then you can also change the font style. So depending upon the theme that you select, you can go ahead. There are different types of fonts that you could pick. Again, it is limited, like I said, but the graphics are good. So I would start with the themes first. Really having your students go ahead and choose a theme that maybe fits them, fits their personality. So the next thing I would direct my students to do is this first page that you are on is your home page. It's your welcome page. So I would have them change the title. So they can title it whatever, welcome. You can have them customize that. You can say, this is so-and-so's ePortfolio, whatever you choose on how you want it labeled on the front page. So if you are here right now, this is considered to be a title text. Therefore, the font is larger. If you want it to be a different size, you can go ahead and select whatever preference you have. But for obviously this, I'm going to leave it as a title page. You can go ahead and align the text differently. You can make it bold. So there's a lot of things that you can do. You can have your students maybe link it to something, and then you can clear the formatting if you'd like, or you can delete it. So this is kind of them labeling their home page. What other features you have available to you on part of these page headers is you can change the image. So you can upload images from your device, or you can select images that are pre-made through Google. So these are all the ones from their gallery that will fit nicely into the site. You can search pictures. You can, if you have photos linked to your albums, or if you have photos within your drive that you want to insert into your headers, you have that option as well. So I'm going to go ahead and select that one. And you will notice it adjusts for readability. So for people that have visual impairments or anything along those lines, what's nice about this is it actually focuses the image with the font to make it clear for that person to see. So that's really cool. You do have this reset button now that is available to you. So if you want to reset back to what it was, you can go ahead and click that. You can adjust your header type. So you can make it a huge cover page. You can have them have a large banner, a smaller banner, or just the title. So it depends upon your preference as to what you'd like, but it allows the students to kind of customize that and play with it to the aesthetic that they want or the one that you want. So usually what I do with portfolios on the first page is I have my students go ahead and either insert an image of them, a cartoon of them, something that represents who they are. But I also would have them insert maybe a text about them. So there's two ways that you can do this. Right, again, we are on the home page, but what you can do is you can go back to the insert side and you can go to insert a text box and it'll produce this text box for you. Or, oops, I just hit copy, sorry. Or if I'm still on this Pages tab, I can move to the white space of the site and I can double click. When I do that, it produces this quick little window, and all I need to do if I want to insert a text, I'll just click there and it'll automatically insert that text box for me. So if I'm inserting a text box, it usually defaults to the normal text, or I have the ability to go ahead and change it accordingly. So I would then have my students type out a message. So they would go ahead and do whatever I was asking them to do. So they would create this and then maybe create another text box and then say, hello, I am, however years old, and continue on with whatever information they would like to share or, anything about that. So this kind of beginning page or welcome page, very minimal. I don't really put a lot of things there. However, you can make it what you want. You can have the students provide links that carry you to the other pages that you want, but that's kind of what that would look like. So like I said, we're on our home page. So maybe the next page, as I add a new page, is the next unit. So if I want to create a new page, I go down to this plus sign. As soon as I hover over it, I can either add a new page or I can create a new link. So what a new link does is I can direct them directly to a web page or a page within my website. Or if I want them to go to like an outside website, such as like YouTube or something like that, we can embed those links for quick navigation. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a new page, and we'll give that new page a title. So if I call this Unit 1 and we're talking about cells, I'll go ahead and leave it like that, and then I'll click Done. And what you're going to see is it's going to keep the background image, the header, and the header type, and it's going to kind of just default to what was on the home page. You can still go back and customize it if you'd like. So if I just want it to be the title, make it a little bit more simple, you can go ahead and do that. So what you'll notice up here towards the top, I created a new page. Before, it didn't have anything, but now it's starting to give me my navigation screen. So I have a home button, and then I have my first page, which is Unit 1 cells. So that's what you'll see there. Now, if I wanted to have my portfolio be separated, so the examples that I showed you earlier within this webinar, my students kind of had everything free floating in Unit 1. But if you want to create subpages, what you'll do is you'll hover over the title where it says Unit 1 cells. You'll go to the 3 dots, and then you're going to go down to where it says Add Subpage. So what you're going to do here is maybe you want their notes or, direct instruction, anything along those lines, worksheets, things that they do in the class. You can go ahead and click that and create that subpage. So if I were my students, the students would then put any of their notes in there, anything that fit in that direct instruction category, and they can insert their documents there. So if I did want to create another subpage, I can go ahead and click back on the Unit 1 tab, go to those 3 dots, and then I'm going to add that subpage, another one, and maybe this will be projects. So if I'm doing multiple projects in Unit 1, they can showcase them there. So what you'll notice now, just in the navigation piece, I do have 2 subpages, but notice over here, I do have my 2 subpages appearing here. As I hover over this section, it's going to start to show those subpages. So if I want to create a new page, and I'm going to go to Unit 2, not cells, we'll go ecology. Then I would create my new unit. And notice the difference between the two. Cells, I have 2 subpages, therefore it's going to appear underneath. And then ecology, I don't have any subpages, so therefore it's only going to be that 1 page. So that's kind of how you create your pages. Now they're not permanent. So if you want your projects to go before the notes and instruction, all you need to do is you're going to hold down on that page, and then you're just going to move it up and move it, wherever it needs to go. And maybe you're going to switch up the units and you need to rename it. You can do so. So you go to the 3 dots, and then you can go ahead and, change what you need. So double click on it, and then you can change your pages. So they're not permanently there. If you make a mistake, you can delete it, or you can edit and fix it. Before I go any further in this part, I am going to go ahead and draw your attention up here towards this top. So right now we're on horizontal navigation. There are 2 ways to format your site for your viewers to see. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. If you go over to the left-hand side where the settings wheel is, you can go ahead and change your navigation. So right now it's at the top, but if you want it at the side, you can go ahead and change that. And I'll show you what that looks like. So before, the navigation was here. Now it's on the left-hand side by these 3 dots. So it's a sidebar now. So instead of having the navigation in the corner, say I have like 10 units, that's going to really take up a lot of space at the top, and it's not really going to leave a nice aesthetic, if you will. So this sidebar actually helps. And then that arrow down indicates that there are subpages there. So that's another feature that you have, but I'll go ahead and leave it in the default, which is the top navigation setting. So that's just kind of a little tidbit I just wanted to show you. So let's go ahead and dive into adding some content on here. So if you go to the insert page, this is where everything is. This is your meat and your potatoes of what your students are going to add to their site. So like I said in the first questions that I asked, what are you having your kids showcase? I really see ePortfolios as a way for your students to kind of showcase and brag about what they know and what they can do within these platforms. I know my students, I gave them a lot of projects and different things that they had to adjust to. They're seniors right now, and I think that they're probably maybe somewhat thankful for some of the projects I made them do. I could tell a sense of sarcasm in some of the projects, but I think overall the students really got to know the programs, and a lot of it was saved within their drive. So that was nice because it was easily, they were easily able to insert it into their portfolio. So like I said, you can go ahead and insert a text box. You can format the text. What is different about this, so I'll just go ahead and put sample text. What's different about this is you'll notice as I navigate through maybe the different types of headers, this is producing maybe a black color text. And if I go to heading, I think one of them changes. I think it might be subheading. Subheading, it takes the color of like that maroon color that I chose on there. So depending upon what type of text, it's going to change the color. There is no way to customize the font to be like a specific color. It really goes off of your theme. So there are ways for you to differentiate and kind of create separation among your project, and that's by hovering over your text and going to this little paint icon, which is that section background. So you can leave it regular where it's white. Emphasis, it's kind of like a gray color. That's emphasis 1. Or if I want to go to emphasis 2, or I can actually insert an image in that background, which is kind of nice. That's like an upgrade feature. So this really allows for your students to go ahead and, separate what they're putting in there. If you want to insert images, you have the ability to upload from your computer or select from images within your drive or within a Google search. So if I want a picture, what are we talking? We talked about cells. So if I want a picture of a cell, they can go ahead and insert it, and voila, super simple. So you can format the image. You can maybe, where did I get this image from? Provide a link. You have the ability to uncrop it. You have the ability to crop it. And then more settings that you have. If you want to replace the image, You can add an alternative text. You can add a caption, which is super nice. So I don't know what type of cells these are, but you can go ahead and have the students go ahead and enter in a caption for the picture as well. So it's really nice because it gives the students everything that they need in order to, create something that looks nice as opposed to just kind of being scattered. As you guys saw right now, I did go ahead and hover over my picture. And if I want to move it to the center, all I'm going to do is drag it, and then I'm going to drop it into where I want it to go. So that's kind of a nice feature. It does limit the ability for me to kind of put it in specific spots. But what's nice about this is it really takes things into account and makes sure everything's centered. So that's kind of nice. If you are using programs such as like Adobe Spark or ThingLink or anything along those lines, you can take those embed codes that it gives you, and you can go ahead and click that, and you can either embed it by URL or that embed code, and you can go ahead and put that in there. And it's nice because it just provides an image and a link to that specific program that you're using. So that's really nice, and teaching students, how to do that was beneficial for them. Google Drive. This will take you to everything within your Google Drive, which is super awesome. If you move over here towards the upper right-hand side, there is a tab that says recent. So if there are recent things that you have had access to, if you go to that tab, it'll directly kind of pull them up, which is super easy to navigate. But everything that you have within your drive, it's just going to be in there, and you can go and insert multiple things at one time or just one thing at a time. So as I continue down, layouts is a new feature. This wasn't there when I was teaching my students how to do this, but this is awesome because what it does is these are 3 images. It would provide one image here and then 2 smaller ones. And I'll go ahead and do this one. And what's nice about this is if they do use the layout features, you can go ahead and just click the plus sign, and you can easily upload images, select an image from your drive, look for files within your drive. So if they are using any kind of Google app for education, you can click on that. If you want them to insert a link to a YouTube video, they can do that. You can insert a calendar or insert a map within that specific space. So that's kind of nice. Again, gives the students the ability to create a heading and maybe some subtext, if you will, if they need to do that. But this is awesome. This is like a nice time saver in regards to students kind of formatting it. This is a great tool that Google upgraded the sites with. So some other cool additional features that you have the ability to use would be collapsible text. So what this does is this is your main text. So if I wanted my students to take notes, and then within the bottom, this was a link to sketch notes, they could go ahead and select this text and then provide the link to that specific assignment. And what you'll see now is you have this main header and then some collapsible text there. And then it gives you the ability to kind of hide it. But if you need to navigate to it, then you have the ability to. So that's a cool feature. I don't know necessarily where I would see my students using it per se. I'd probably have them organize it in a different format, but that's something that is available to them. I'm going to go ahead and delete this part too so you guys can kind of see where I'm at. Okay, so table of contents. This is actually really nice. I got to create another text. So what I have here are let me do a subheading, 2 headings. Let me go ahead and change this. So I have 2 pieces of text here. If I go over to the table of contents, what it does is it takes any text that you have there, and it creates a table of contents for you, which is super nice. So if Sample text 1 is like 5 different things, and sample text 2, you have to kind of scroll a long ways to get there. You can go ahead and insert that table of contents, and it's going to take you directly to that specific text within that page. So that is invaluable. I think that that is a great feature that they added. So that's really nice that they added that. There is another way that you can go ahead and do that if you don't want to do table of contents. There's this button feature. So if you want to add certain buttons, so I'll go ahead and show you project 1. So if I wanted my students to have links to their projects, so I just have to click buttons and I want them to go to that projects page, I would select that page and hit insert. And what it does is it creates this button tab for you, and you can make this as large as you want, whether it fits like the whole page or you can make it a little bit smaller. And what's nice about this is you can customize it. You can just leave it maybe outlined, or it could just be text. But what's nice, it's directly linked to that project page, and then I can provide that link for teachers or for viewers, so that way they can get there quickly. Another feature that's available to you is this image carousel. This is a new feature. For example, if your students were taking images of certain things and you want them to provide, multiple pictures at once instead of just having it like one picture after another, you can insert multiple images and it provides a carousel for you. So it'll advance as the images are displayed. So that's a really cool feature that you would have available to you. So that's something that you can go ahead and have your students create. Dividers, exactly that. It provides a line of separation between content. YouTube, what's nice about this is students can search for specific YouTubes. If they have the URL, they can go ahead and insert that link there. If you are on the teacher end and you're building maybe like a site or something, any videos that you've uploaded on your YouTube account will automatically appear there as well. So it's a quick embed for you. So that's a cool feature. Calendar. If students maybe are keeping their own calendar and you want to kind of see, what is it they're working on, I would highly recommend avid teachers having students create like a digital portfolio showcasing all of their work from all of their subjects, but also maybe keeping track of their calendar. It's really nice because all you have to do is select one of your calendars. I'm going to select one that I don't have anything on there, so the holidays. But if your students are using their calendars, you can go ahead and kind of see what they have available to them. And then you can go ahead and adjust the settings, as you see fit. So that's kind of nice. So if I didn't want agenda, that's what I was looking for. If I didn't want agenda, but maybe like week, it's going to go ahead and change that format, which is nice. But you can also share maybe a turn-in calendar with your kids, and you can kind of have them keep track of, what do I need to have on this page and that kind of thing. So that's a cool way that students can kind of keep track of their calendar. Maps. If you are familiar with maps, you can go ahead and look up a specific location and insert that map into your website. But if you've ever done projects with students where they're creating maps, looking at distances or providing links. I did like a thing link activity with some of my students. We were talking about biomes and things like that. And of course, they're not going to show up now, but all those would appear here, any map that you created, and you can insert those in there. So that's something that's super cool and super fun. As you see, you have the rest being apps, Google Apps for Education. So if I just wanted to go to my docs, I click on that, it's only going to bring up any doc that I have. Same for slides, sheets, forms, and then what charts does is it actually brings up sheets, and if you have images within those sheets, it'll embed that chart for you. So that's really great. So again, what do you want your kids to know? What do you want them to showcase? And how do you want it structured? It really is, it comes down to organization. You have to really be exact in what you want your kids to have on or in your site, but give them the ability to kind of customize it and make it their own, because they will produce wonderful things for you. So like I said, once you have it kind of detailed as to how you want it to be, that's kind of where you'll go. Now, on the student end, what you want them to do is they need to be on the home page when they provide your URL, and I'll kind of go through how do they make it published and how does that work. So once the site's done, or it's done to them having at least it kind of set up, the skeleton, the backbones, what you want them to do is you want them to go over to this publish button. When you go to this publish button, I'm in my school's domain right now. So it's going to have this be the beginning part of my URL, but then maybe I want it to be the student's last name and then ePortfolio or something, ePortfolio, ePort, or just their last name. Whatever you want to have as your web address for your students, that's what you'll go ahead and have them type. Now, because I am in my school's domain, it's going to be accessible to anybody within my district that has access to looking at my sites. If you want it to be outside of your domain, you can change that here. But if your students are using it, I would recommend in just keeping it within here now. And then, yeah, that's kind of what I would do, just because they're showcasing what they know from the school's end, not from anything else. So once they have their web address name checked, you'll go ahead and hit publish, and then it'll go to publishing. What's nice now is that link button that was not present before. You can get a copy of the link for the form that the students are filling out. So as I said earlier, what I would have my students do is I would have them just fill out a quick form, their last name, their first name, and then that link to their portfolio. So I'd like them to be on the homepage, and then that way they're providing that link for me. Now, if you've never used sites before, what's nice about this is it's actually being stored within your drive, and you'll notice that it's changing, or it's saving all your changes as you're working through it. So it's saving it, but in order for your viewer to see what you're working on, the published side of it is anytime you make any changes. So I'll just put 15. Okay, so I made a change. So what I need to do now is I need to hit that published. Anytime I make a change and I want my viewers to see what I've done, it's going to bring you to a screen that looks like this. This is what's currently published. So this is what I had before. And then in blue, it's going to show you the draft of what changes you've made. And then once you see, okay, that's what I need, you're going to click this publish button in the upper right-hand corner, and it's going to publish everything that you just made, the changes that you made, to your site for the viewer to see. So I think that kind of covers it. There's a lot more little specifics, like a fave icon, couple little things that I have within my slides, my slide deck, but I don't necessarily think I'm going to go into all of the little nuances, because I think that's more building a site maybe for yourself to give to your students, or different things like that. But I think this is kind of just the meat and potatoes as to what you can do to get you started, and really have you start thinking about what is it that I want my kids to produce for me, and what is it that I'm trying to get them to accomplish by building a site and using the Google Apps for Education. So Megan, I think I'm kind of done presenting, if you will, but if there's questions or anything, I'm so proud of myself. I didn't go the whole hour this time.
That was good. That was good last time too. I had one person that had a question about if you had ever put a Flipgrid video into a Google site.
I have not, but I would assume that if there's an embed code or a link, it should work. So, but I have not. I don't know if you have.
I haven't, but I dropped a video in there from the Free Tech for Teachers blog, and it looks like it's absolutely possible.
Sweet.
Just like you said, it's through using that embed code. So you
Okay.
can just put it in, and it looks like it kind of shows up as a kind of Inception-like, right? A website within a website.
Yes.
So
Okay. Very cool. Yay.
I'm trying to
Yeah,
see.
what's nice about that, and if you use different platforms like Flipgrid or Adobe Spark, I use that a lot, or ThingLinks, that really just that embed code is going to save you time just to put that in there.
And then maybe share for a second real quick what you've done with sites in the professional development you created for our district too, because that was pretty cool.
Yes, I'm actually going to be blogging about that. I took the advice of Megan and our other friend Melissa. I actually created, I've created a couple things for the district. The first thing I wanted to do when I became an administrator, number one, was to create a Google site for my site specifically. I know that the sites that I've worked with, we've moved to Google Apps for Education. So in regards to docs, sheets, pretty much everything that we have. I know the first year I was an administrator, they kept sending me links to stuff. And I was like, I can't keep track of all of this. How do people keep track of this? So I built a website for sites, and it's kind of like wherever you work, it's kind of like your hub or, your sweet spot, if you will. So I've done that. And then I've also used sites to I use Screencastify and YouTube a lot. So I've been able to put together resources for pretty much anybody that wants to get to know any of the platforms, and just kind of giving them tutorials on how to use the programs and navigate it. And it's been super easy to make because it's all through sites. All I have to do is upload my videos to YouTube and insert them and add text, and it's been pretty easy. So
yeah, and the website that or the Google site that she was mentioning, I am in the position that she was in. And that was like one of the first things that teachers asked me when I got there, like, you're going to keep updating that site that Jen made, right? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Like that was super important to everybody because it was just a phenomenal place, like as an administrator, to store information that they would be using on a daily basis. And then kind of like she was referencing to that, she made a super great professional development website with all these googly resources. And it's really just a one-stop shop in both sites for people to go to, and just very easy to navigate and easy to manage as well. I think that's one real benefit of sites. While Jen and I both have run our own blogs through WordPress, that's a lot of work to keep up, and it's a really complicated sometimes. I'm always like, okay, I'm gonna have to Google this, and fingers crossed, today I didn't blow up my site. I was trying something new. So Google Sites is very easy to not mess up. And when I do stuff like that, I love to use sites because it's just very intuitive. It's very easy. And Google's done a great job of making features similar cross platforms, right? So sites and slides and stuff, they've all got similar features.
Yeah, and I would say the one thing that I didn't share in my presentation that I probably want to give lip service to now is anytime you're sharing, like if I'm creating a website and maybe I'm sharing a Google Doc or a sheet or anything like that, you want to make sure your preferences are the people have the ability to view it. So there is an extension that I have. I don't know if Megan has a different one, but it is, now I can't find it. Why can't I find it? Anyone can view. We might want to drop that in the comments for them. That is a quick extension. It will only appear on any Google app for education, such as a slide deck, a doc. All you have to do is quickly click that button. And then what it does is it makes the audience, anybody can view it. So when you put it into a site, anybody can quickly view that. Because I know when I was creating sites at the very beginning, I had a website for my students, and my students would be like, yeah, Ms. Calderon is organized, but I can't see anything because you didn't let me see it. So just make sure that if you are creating anything, you are allowing people to view it, because if not, they won't be able to see it. And then you have to request access, and then it's this whole to do. So
that's a really good suggestion.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's important. Or else it looks really pretty on your end and everybody else just sees that you do not have access to this on their site.
I need to add that to my slide deck because I think that's like a big piece. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And sometimes I would even pull it into incognito mode too, just to check and see if it would work out. So that's always something you can use as well.
Correct.
We had one question from Laura who said, any simple beginner ideas for upper elementary classes to help get students, which I can put it up here, to help students get familiar during distance learning?
You can use my slide deck, like take it and run with it, like make a copy. I don't care, I would have my students kind of just dabble in it, whether you like to take screenshots for your students and have them navigate that way, or if you want to create like a screencastify video, anything along those lines, I would really just have them get down with like the simple stuff, have them insert images, like create a website about them, about what their quarantine life is like, and maybe just leave it to a one-page kind of site as opposed to adding multiple pages. But maybe as you're kind of seeing what it looks like, then essentially start adding, sub pages and things like that. But I think really just getting their feet wet at this age, and then maybe next year that next teacher is like, okay, you know how to do the simple stuff. Let's take it a step further.
Correct. And then what I love that a couple people have put in here, Lisa was sharing how much her parents in her classroom love to see the students showcased work through their Google Sites.
Yes.
So that's really kind of nice. I've seen some elementary schools that have done portfolios across the grades, right? And so that goes with the students as they move up in grades so they can kind of see their progress.
Yes.
So that's kind of
It was so funny because I had another teacher reach out to me and was asking, hey, what did you do for this genetics section kind of thing? And I was like, I had my students do this really cool project on Adobe Spark. They had to be a doctor, and they created this video. And it's so funny, I couldn't find the link, and I was like, oh my gosh. So when I was looking for resources for this, I found the student's website, and the video was on there. So these are seniors now. They were freshmen 4 years ago.
Wow.
What's cool about this is I'm actually going to email them their website so they can go back and kind of see their work from my class. So that way they can be like, wow, how much I've grown. Awesome. So I think it's really cool because ideally I want my students to look and see, this is all the stuff that I did throughout the year. This is all the stuff that, I've learned. And I think it's just a good platform for that.
That's a really cool idea. I mean, my former AVID teacher brain goes to the letters we would have them write in their 8th grade year.
Yes.
And then send them to them in their senior year.
Yes.
So we used to do it on paper, but you could totally do it in a site and then just reshare it with them and say, hey, do you remember writing this letter to yourself? And
exactly. I know. I think it was a district up here that used to have them create a senior portfolio, and it would showcase, big parts of their work. And I think if students were keeping that, especially AVID kids, showcase some projects, showcase what you have. So if you are applying to colleges or, whatever, you have this to provide to people.
Absolutely. Well, any last tips or tricks you want to give, or any words of wisdom?
I would just say have fun and explore. I think either you creating one for yourself or having your kids do it, it's one step at a time, Don't hesitate to ask questions, and just really allow your students the opportunity to grow. It's a new platform for them, and it's a new one for most people as well. So just have fun.
Absolutely. Perfect. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Jen, for such a wonderful presentation. It was very clear and very easy to follow. I'm excited for the people that get to look back on this and watch it later as well. If you guys do have any questions, I dropped Jen's information in here as well, and you can also find it in her presentation. I'm sure she won't mind at all if you reach out for any questions that you might have. And if you want to subscribe to the blog so that you can get more information about future webinars, definitely do that. We've got a few more coming up in the next couple of weeks. One that I'm really excited about, and Jen doesn't know this yet, but I might ask her to participate in this one, is one on self-care during distance learning, because I'm hearing a lot of people talking about that right now.
I'm the worst, but I'll do it.
But I'm thinking of a panel of people and a bunch of from different walks in education. We've got some more on educational technology coming up. I'm just kind of peeking at it right now, kind of like a cliffhanger thing. One on Flipgrid and Adobe Spark. So there's a lot of fun stuff coming up. That'll come out in a blog post very soon about the specifics and the sign-up form if you want to receive information about it beforehand. So that is linked up at the top of the comments if you guys want to subscribe to that. Again, Jen's information is in there, her blog, everything. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. Have a great day.
Bye.